call the Plan Commission meeting to order since there is a quorum present. The meeting of May 20th, 2024. First, we will hear from our technical facilitator, Ariana.
Sounds good. Thank you. Welcome to our virtual meeting. We're going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. To members and city staff, members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak or ask questions. Staff, click raise hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do their best to call on committee members in the order in which hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who are registered to speak. The name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First is the agenda item number 1, Plan Commission public comment period. And to my knowledge, there are no public comments. Is that correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
Okay, then moving on, communications, disclosures, and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any disclosures or recusals? Seeing no raised hands. Next, we will move to the minutes of the May 6th, 2024 regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing no raised hands, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Commissioner Solheim, seconded by Commissioner Alder Duncan. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. As to upcoming meetings, we have regular meetings on Monday, June 10th, June 24th, July 8th, and July 29th, all at 5:30, and they are all virtual meetings. Then we do have a special meeting on Thursday, July 11th, and that will start at 5 o'clock, and that will be in person in room 215 of the Madison Municipal Building. Okay, moving on, we will go to the consent agenda. It's a custom of the Plan Commission to remove from the agenda those items on which staff believes an application has had sufficient review to warrant approval with all of the conditions placed upon it by various city departments, on which the applicant accepts those conditions, and there are no individuals who have registered to speak in opposition to the item. Those things are placed on the consent agenda, and we will address those now. If the members of the Plan Commission do request separation, then we would take those items in the regular course of business. Of the items before us today, the following agenda items are proposed for the consent agenda. Agenda items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12, 13, and 14. Are there any requests for separation? Seeing no raised hands, I will read these items into the record. Agenda item 2, Legistar 83179, declaration of public street right-of-way of city-owned parcels for Shui Road and White Fox Lane, being part of northeast quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 20, Township 7 North, Range 8 East, City of Madison, Dane County, in Alder District 9. Agenda item 3, Legistar 83211, amending the records, including maps and databases of the street address numbers and street names by the city engineer referred to in sections 10.34 Madison General Ordinances by changing the name of a north to south portion of Ludd's Lane to Ludd's Court, the location of the street name change lying approximately 1,250 feet east of East Buckeye Road. Agenda item 4, Legistar 82734, located at 305 Bear Claw Way, Alder District 9, consideration of a conditional use in the suburban residential varied 2 district for a residential building complex containing 3-story, 4-unit townhouse buildings and 1 3-story, 3-unit townhouse building. Agenda item 5, Legistar 82905, creating sections of the Madison General Ordinance to change the zoning of property located at 4702 Verona Road from Planned Development District to amended Planned Development General Development Plan District, and creating sections to approve a specific implementation plan, Alder District 10. Agenda item 6, Legistar 82946, located at 2250 Pennsylvania Avenue, Alder District 12, consideration of a conditional use in the Industrial Limited District for animal boarding, consideration of a conditional use in the Industrial Limited District for an animal daycare, and consideration of a conditional use in that same district for an arts, technical, or trade school, all to allow animal boarding, animal daycare, and pet training in an existing commercial building. Agenda item 8, Legistar 83270, located at 202 through 212 South Baldwin Street, Alder District 6, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish 3 commercial buildings. Agenda items 12, 13, and 14, which are related. Legistar 82944, located at 114 Van Dusen Street, Alder District 13, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a single-family residence. Legistar 82945, located at 1124 Colby Street, also Alder District 13, consideration of an alteration to an approved conditional use in the traditional residential consistent to district for a daycare center, consideration of a conditional use in that same district for a building exceeding 10,000 square feet of area, and consideration of a conditional use in the same district for an automobile parking reduction of more than 20 spaces and 25% or more of the required parking to allow construction of an addition to an existing daycare center. The agenda item 14, Legistar 82977, approving a certified survey map of property owned by Woodland Montessori School located 1124 Colby Street and 114 Van Dusen Street in Alder District 13. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Alder Duncan, seconded by Alder Field. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay, moving on. The first item that we will now hear is agenda item 7, Legistar 82947, located at 2927 East Washington Avenue, Alder District 15, consideration of a conditional use in the commercial corridor transitional district to allow freestanding vending food cart in the parking lot of a multi-tenant commercial building. First, we will hear from Lisa McNabola to tell us a little bit about that.
Great, thank you. As the chair said, before the commission is a conditional use request to allow freestanding vending, also known as food carts, within 200 feet of a residential use at 2927 East Washington Avenue. The applicant operates a tasting room in one of the tenant spaces in the building, and the Plan Commission approved a conditional use for that tasting room in November of 2023. And now they are proposing to use 4 of 24 parking stalls in the parking lot as a designated area for food carts. The parking lot fronts East Washington and Oak Street, and the building is located towards the rear of the lot. The nearest house is approximately 115 feet away from the proposed food cart location. The applicant anticipates that the food cart could operate up to 4 times per week during peak business hours, but there might be some flexibility there with the number of times and the hours per the letter of intent that was provided with the application. And the applicant has also indicated that they might change the location of the food carts just depending on the operational needs of the users. And per the recommended conditions of approval, any change in the location of the food carts would require approval of a conditional use alteration, which is allowed per the zoning code. And then another note as well, the site is in Urban Design District 5, and the Urban Design District may administratively approve certain changes within urban design districts. And the UDC secretary has reviewed the site plan and confirmed that the changes can be administratively, or that the site plan can be administratively approved. So the staff recommendation is for approval. I did just want to note as well that there were a couple of public comments that were submitted this morning citing some concerns about the proposed use. And just for clarification, the public comments did refer to a proposed outdoor seating area, which the applicant has applied for approval of a minor alteration to the previously approved tasting room conditional use to allow for that outdoor eating area located behind the building. As proposed, the outdoor eating area is scheduled to be closed by 9 and would not have any outdoor amplified sound. And because the proposal would be operated in accordance with the permitted use standards for outdoor eating areas, a separate conditional use was not required for that use. Thanks, and let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. We do have a couple of registrants. I will open the public hearing. The first registrant is Jeannie Capillero, 2927 East Washington Avenue, Madison, in support, available to answer questions. She notes that she is representing Minocqua Brewing Madison Tap Room. She is the manager there, and she applied for the permit as the manager of the business. There are no other registrants available to answer questions or wishing to speak. Are there any questions for Jeannie? Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. Yes, I have a question for Jenny, if she's available.
Mute. Hi.
There she is. Okay, Jenny, I'd like to know about the hours of operation of the food cart, and if you're, it wasn't clear from the letter of intent what the hours would be for the food carts. Can you talk about what your time of day operations might be?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if the video's not on. I haven't been to one of these before, but if you can hear me, we are open at the earliest. We open at noon, and most days we open at 2 p.m. We close 8 PM on a couple of days, then 9:30 PM on most days, I think 4 days, and then Sunday we are noon to 6. So this is all new. We're a new business. We're just trying to provide, food in addition to, people being able to come in here and have beer. And we have, very limited food options. We, had local slide chips and a few other things. So, we don't really know, what hours are going to work for the tap room, but we just wanted to have that go through this process so that we could have a permit to invite, food carts to vend in the parking lot.
Okay, thanks. So I think our job is to help establish some of those parameters. And I was wondering how you felt about limiting the hours of operation of the food carts to before 9 p.m., which is what your rear outdoor area would have as their ending hours too, so that I understand you don't need a conditional use for that aspect of it. If we were to say, okay, no later than 9 p.m., or what if we just had it match your hours of operation and your letter of intent? Would that be too restrictive since you don't really know exactly what hours you might settle on?
Well, I feel like if it matched our hours of operation, I don't think we'd have a problem with that. I would like to be able to, like, if we're open till the inside is open until 9:30, if, to have people be able to get food up until that point. So I feel okay though with matching the hours of operation.
I guess I was leaning a little bit towards ending it just a little bit earlier to make sure that impacts on the neighbors might be a little bit mitigated, so that it wouldn't get too late into the night. But it's maybe that's splitting hairs. We'll have to talk about that. I appreciate your answers to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. I have one quick question for Jenny as well. Jenny, in looking at the site plan, it looks like the back area is all fenced in. I was just wondering if you could confirm that will remain. I'm mostly wondering as folks, go to the food cart to get some food, that they'll go back through the tasting room to get to the backspace versus being able to go around. Is that correct?
Yeah, that people would be able to access the back patio only through the tap room.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Are there any further questions for Jenny? Okay. Patrick, Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. I thought of one more question for Jenny. Jenny, I didn't see any seating in the parking lot area, in the food vending area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So
We allow people to bring food in.
okay, that's kind of what you're thinking. I'm wondering about people hanging out in the parking lot, and it sounds like it could happen, but they'd be standing, so more likely they'd go inside.
And that's our intention, that we just have options for people, because we're such a small space. There wasn't any option to have any kind of kitchen space or anything like that, but we wanted to be able to have food for people. And so we currently let people have takeout food that they bring in. And so it'd be that kind of same concepts.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
That was my question.
Okay.
Are there
Thanks.
any further questions for Jenny? I do have one question, Jenny. Did you have any meetings with any of the neighbors to talk to them about your proposal?
I haven't had any meetings about this particular topic. I guess my perspective is it seemed kind of non-controversial because it's really just allowing, food carts, and we don't, we wanted to have the option of having food carts here, up to 4 days. I don't really see that happening, but we just don't know, how things are going to look. So we wanted to have some flexibility, but it just sort of seemed like this would not have a huge impact since the area where the food carts would be placed is furthest from, the nearest home. The home that's 150 feet from the parking lot. I didn't see it as having a huge impact on neighbors, especially the fact that it's somewhat limited hours.
The reason why I ask is we did get a letter of dissatisfaction. So that's why I was wondering if there had been any outreach to the neighbors. Alder Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, this is a question for Jenny. Looking at the intent of the 3 to 4 times a week, are there any specific days that you all are looking to potentially have these, or it doesn't really matter as long as you have that option 3 to 4 times a week?
Yeah, we did want to keep it kind of open because like right now we're just feeling this out. There's kind of like not a lot of similar businesses in the neighborhood. And so we're trying to figure out, is it, do we want to bring more people in here on a Monday night? And would that appeal to people so that would be a reason to put that on Facebook and people come down because there's, Italian beef sandwiches or something like that? Or do we want to have something, on the weekends where it's something that people come in the afternoon and enjoy some food from a food cart? So that's why we wanted to just keep it kind of open until we kind of feel out what the business and what the neighborhood needs are.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? If not, I will close the public hearing. Are there questions of staff? Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. Lisa, if we were to limit the hours of operation or days of the week, do you anticipate that an alteration to those aspects of a conditional use permit could be administratively approved with the consent of the alder, or would they need to come back to Plan Commission?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to add to the condition that the hours or days could be altered through a minor alteration, which would have a recommendation from the alder as well as, the director of planning making that decision. If the Plan Commission wanted to have it come back, we could do that as well. But I think a minor alteration would be sufficient.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Any other questions of staff? I just want to clarify, Lisa, that if there were any problems that the Plan Commission would have continuing jurisdiction.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? If not, then I would need a motion. Alder Duncan.
I'm going to try this one. I recommend that the Plan Commission find the approval standards for conditional use are met and approve the request to allow freestanding vending at 2927 East Washington Avenue within 200 feet of a residential use with the additional standards of allowing only 3 nights a week and with it closing 30 minutes before the business closes.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Solheim. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Alder Duncan?
Just a little bit. I think that it's a good idea to have this vending food cart freestanding there to be able to have food. I am a little concerned with having residents around there getting too late into the night, and if they can pick 3 nights, maybe it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that, where it won't potentially cause any types of issues for individuals who may have to work the next day during the week.
Thank you. Any other input, comments, observations? Kevin?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question to Alder Duncan, just some clarifications here. First, you were tying it to just to make sure, you were tying it to the hours of operations for the business itself, not the outdoor eating area?
Correct. So
Okay.
So if it's at 9, then it would close at 8:30.
My only suggestion, just for a clarity standpoint on that, would be in case the internal hours change, let's say they get changed to 10:30 or 11, kind of creating a sliding scale. So I guess I would suggest, just for clarity, it might be better to set a time. It would be easier to enforce in case the hours change. That would just be one request, or just one suggestion from staff. The other one, going back to what Lisa had mentioned to Patrick Heck's question, as part of the condition, Lisa mentioned the opportunity to allow for minor alteration. It's a condition that we routinely use for this type of thing, where we have a caveat that if agreed to through the minor alteration process, a condition like this could be modified through that. Otherwise, if it's a plan commission condition and we don't specify that it could be a minor alt, then any alteration would have to come back to this body. So I just wanted to see the intent if you wanted to add language to that effect as well.
Yeah, if we can add language for the minor alteration, I guess with regards to the timing, since the hours of operation are different throughout the week, how to set a specific time, as you were saying, how would you be able to do that unless, are you stating that we would potentially need to pick the 3 days that they're also going to be using?
I would advise against that. I think my sense is the applicant is still figuring out their business model, so I don't think we would know exactly at the staff level. So I would say, I think there was the time that the applicant had mentioned was 9:30. That was mentioned. That could be, the absolute latest, and whether that's on, maybe that's not a day specific condition, just as a time that had been put out there in the application materials. But I will leave it up to the commission how they want to do that. I would just.
Kevin, what about saying the half an hour that Alder Duncan said, but no later than 9:30? So they would combine those two. It would be a specific, but if the business closed at 9, it would be 8:30. So
That I'll look to Lisa. She's is probably more familiar with the details here, but I think that would be clear.
okay, Alder Duncan, did you wish to alter your motion then?
I didn't know if Lisa wanted to comment before. Or...
No, I just wanted to clarify. So it would be 30 minutes before closing, no later than 9:30.
Yeah, so that way, if
Okay.
it was a Monday night, it would close at 7:30, but at least on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it would be 9:00, no later than 9:30 though, on those where the
Okay.
business closes at 9:30.
And then just one more point of clarification. I think in the motion, it was said 3 nights per week, but I think with their hours of operation, they are open during the day. So it would
So
be
3 times a week, 3 times a week.
times. Oh, that's what you said. Sorry about that.
Right. No, I did say nights, but 3 times a week. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Okay. So is everybody clear on what the motion is with those tweaks? Kevin?
I'm sorry, this is just a minor point, but just wanted to make sure that it also included the other recommendations in the staff comments.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, any other comments, observations, questions, perspectives? Seeing none, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Moving on then to agenda items 9, 10, and 11. Note that these are related and will be considered as one public hearing. Following the public hearing, the Plan Commission shall make separate findings and motions on each agenda item. Agenda item 9, Legistar 82937, located at 519 and 521 West Main Street, Alder District 4, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a two-family residence and a 4-unit apartment building. Agenda item 10, Legistar 82938, same location, consideration of a conditional use in the downtown residential 2 district for a multifamily dwelling with greater than 8 units, and approval of a conditional use in the DR2 district for accessory general retail service business, restaurant, coffee shop, tea house, professional, and general office to allow construction of a 4-story, 30-unit apartment building with 850 square feet of space for an accessory general retail service business, restaurant, coffee shop, tea house, or professional and general office. Agenda item 11, Legistar 82975, approving a certified survey map of property owned by Vanilla 301 LLC, located at 519 through 521 West Main Street, Alder District 4. And first, we will hear about this from Kevin Furco. Kevin.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple comments here to start the discussion here. As the Chair mentioned, we have 3 requests before you this evening. We have 2 demolition permits and then 2 conditional uses, along with a certified survey map to combine this into one developable parcel. The 2 conditional uses before the body tonight is more than 8 dwelling units on the site, and then for also an accessory retail or service use, as noted in the application. If approved, this would allow for a 4-story, 30-unit building. Now, in regards to the proposed demolition, the structure at 521 West Main Street was found by the Landmarks Commission to have no known historic value, while the building at 519 West Main was found to not be historically or architecturally significant, but it did have historic value based on the vernacular context of downtown Madison. Now, from a design standpoint, staff notes that this item did receive an advisory recommendation from the Urban Design Commission prior to being before you this evening, and that was at the recommendation of the district alderperson. The comments from the Urban Design Commission are attached in the staff report, and recommended conditions of approval recommend the recommendation of the Urban Design Commission. Now, as described in the staff report, staff does believe that the project is generally consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, the downtown plan, and the Mifflindia area plan. Staff also believes that the applicable standards can be met subject to the recommended conditions in the staff report. With that, staff recommends approval and is available to answer questions after the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I will open the public hearing, and 2 representatives of the developer wish to pool their time for a maximum of 9 minutes. Fed Navikov, Daniel Glazel, and Nathan Hellbach. And it will be started off by Fed Navikov. So Fed, your group has a total of 9 minutes.
Thank you so much. And we submitted a presentation slides along this, so I will ask Kevin to put it up. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time, members of the commission. My name is Fed Novikov. I'm a senior project manager at the Neutral Project, and we're excited to present this proposal tonight. Next slide, please. Just a few words about our company. We are a sustainability-oriented developer headquartered in Madison, Wisconsin, and you may know our company by a project called Baker's Place, which is currently undergoing construction on East Washington Street. And with the 519, 521 West Main project, it's our first foray into infill low-rise development. As every project by a company, we intend for this project to use sustainable construction materials and be passive house rated. Next slide, please. For this project, we assembled a team of experts in sustainable construction that are both local and have experience in medicine and nationwide. Next slide, please. And as already was mentioned earlier, the project summary is that it's a 4-story building with 30 residential units, 18 parking spots in the basement, and it's total height of under 50 feet, where allowed by DR2 zone 60 feet maximum. And we're also proposing an accessory retail space on the ground floor next to this open space plaza. Next slide, please. The project is located walking distance from the capital. Next slide, please. And combines the 2 parcels at 519, which is currently is a 4-plex, and 521, which is a duplex development. Next slide, please. Both projects, both existing buildings have reached the functional end of their functional lifespan. Next slide, please. They've undergone multiple alterations throughout the years and have significant wear and tear on the interior. And next slide, please. So yeah, there's exterior and interior of both existing buildings. Next slide, please. The proposed development fits fully within the prescribed setbacks by DR2 zone, and actually we are making the building even smaller, and we're stepping away from the 2 setbacks to allow equal distance to neighboring buildings on the east and the west of about 10 feet, and then also open up this plaza in the front, which I'll mention the reasons for that in a second slide. And the next slide, please. So the program for the building is predominantly residential, 4 residential floors and accessory use on the ground floor, parking level underground. Next slide, please. So the massing was designed to be of this L-shaped to address several goals. One, we believe that it allows us to connect and integrate with the street very well by connecting the facades visually connecting facades of neighboring properties. It also allows us to protect the existing large tree in front of the building that if we were to build all the way to the front setback, we would have to cut. And then in turn, it creates a new open space accessible both for the residents and the neighborhood and patrons of the proposed accessories retail space. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. Out of the 30 units proposed in the development, we have a range of floor plans from studios all the way to 3 bedrooms. All units are primarily oriented towards the street or the backyard and have a few windows on the sides, but that's the primary orientation for the units. And we believe that this allows for the project to create housing for both for a range of tenants from students all the way to families with kids. Next slide, please. This is just illustrates some of the floor plans. Next slide, please. We follow a pretty regular grid throughout the building. Next slide, please. This is the location for the proposed accessory retail space. We envision something of a quiet daytime use that would be like a bakery, a cafe shop, a bookstore, or maybe a professional office for someone, even possibly a tenant in the building, to have their professional practice there. Next slide, please. This is a visualization of that open space and the entrance to the vestibule, both to the residential lobby and to the retail space. There are some additional consideration that we received from Urban Design Commission that we can cover later. Next slide, please. As we were designing the building, we've considered and studied the neighborhood context, and we chose masonry as the primary material for the exterior. Next slide, please. So the proposed facade is a brick facade that turns the brick in different direction and of different sizes between different levels, creating both a balance between consistency in material and breaking up visually the floors, and inserts of wood next to the windows. Next slide, please. So this pattern is consistent throughout the facade on every elevation of the building. So we using a limited number of materials, but using the pattern to make the building visually more appealing and break up this massing. We can go through the next few slides consequently. And next slide, and next slide. So these are just showing you elevations from different sides. Next slide. The landscape plan proposes planting in the front of the building, which would be visible and accessible to people passing the building on the street. And then the backyard is private for the residents, and it has plants that provide additional privacy for the bedrooms on the ground floor level, and also additional shading for the backyard and privacy between the different buildings. Next slide, please. This is a visualization of the facade from the street side. Next slide, please. The backyard. Next slide, please. Backyard looking towards Bedford condominiums. Next slide, please. So over the past months, since last fall, we've conducted multiple meetings with the city, with the neighborhood and community. And we also had an urban voluntary representation to Urban Design Commission by referral of the alderman. Next slide, please. So based on the feedback, we've adjusted the garage design, garage door design. So it's now 12 feet as opposed to the original land use submission of 16 feet wide. It also introduces a door for pedestrian access to the building for the bikers. And it's recessed from the facade. Next slide, please. We've also updated the vision triangle and updated the planters to accordingly. Next slide, please. And hidden the garage vent intake behind that brick pattern. Next slide, please. A big point of conversation was the fence around the perimeter of the building. We've removed the fence next to 511 West Main Street, and we've adjusted the heights on the other side of the building. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. And we've also adjusted the railing on the ADA ramp to make it more visually transparent and reduce its visible height. Next slide, please. We've started making adjustments to the plaza based on the feedback from Urban Design Commission, such as the pavement for the ADA ramp and making the entrance more visible. There is one comment that we haven't yet fully addressed in time, is the switching location of retail and residential lobbies and changing the location of entrance door. But we are open to introducing these changes to the project. Thank you so much for your time. And happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm wondering whether then Nathan Hellbach has anything that he wishes to add? Or
no, I do not.
Okay.
Me and Danielle are just here for a question.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
We pulled our time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Then the next registrant wishing to speak is Victor Villacruz, West Main Street, in support and wishing to speak. Victor, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the Plan Commission. It is a privilege and an honor to address the City Committee about innovation, particularly sustainable innovation. I must disclose that I'm one of the owners of the parcel in the conditional use application located at 519 West Main Street, which is also my current residence where I've lived on and off for 37 years. I urge the committee to support this proposal, not just for the benefit of one owner or one developer, but for the future of our downtown and the Bassett neighborhood. This project represents an opportunity to implement sustainable building practices that align with our community's values on sustainability and environmental stewardship. Principles that are becoming increasingly vital as we look to the future. The renewal taking shape in the Bassett neighborhood offers a chance to foster a new built environment that we as Madisonians can be proud of. Thank you for listening and for the consideration of approval for this proposal.
Thank you, Victor. The next registrant is Bradley Cantrell, West Main Street, Madison, neither support nor oppose, and wishing to speak, representing the Neighborhood Steering Committee and Bedford Court Condo Association. And welcome, Brad, to the Plan Commission again.
Thank you, Chair Zillers. Actually, Pete Oslett and I are kind of teaming on this presentation, and I was hoping that he could go first, and then I would go after him.
Okay, that's fine. So then Pete Osland, West Main Street, Madison, support, wishing to speak, same representation. So Pete, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm the chair of the Bassett Neighborhood Steering Committee that was put together for this proposal. And we met with the development team a number of times. This proposal is the first small infill redevelopment in the DR2 zoning district. And as such, it is a prototype, which others are likely to follow. So I think it's important to get this one right. The first 9 planning staff conditions are design related, mostly coming out of the UDC discussion. And they range from quite restricted to very open-ended. And I'll note that they've been reworded somewhat from what the Urban Design Commission motion had in it. At least 6 of these conditions have not been met yet by the most recent plan revisions. The most important ones to the neighborhood and adjacent properties would be number 3, the design of the wall area above the overhead door. Number 4, integration of the plaza and accessible ramp, especially that portion that you see along the sidewalk. And there were 2 images of that in the presentation. And number 7, the perimeter wall and fencing. Plans with this level of incompleteness could certainly be considered for referral back to UDC. That would not be uncommon in other situations. But the development team on this one has been on a compressed time frame since first introducing the proposal to staff and to the neighborhood. The neighborhood interactions with the Neutral Project on this proposal have been very productive, and they've expressed an interest to continue to maintain these discussions as the plans evolve, and we would like to engage with them on that. But given the extent of what is still yet to come, we'd recommend the following motion be added to any motion to approve that the Plan Commission might make. And that would be that the first 9 planning staff conditions shall be treated as a minor alteration when the plans are brought for staff approval. And while we think that the interactions with the Neutral Project will go forward in a good manner, we also want to be aware that we provide kind of equal review and equal treatment to whoever comes before the neighborhood when we're considering something. And so while we don't particularly believe that this is necessary with this group, we think it is an important step to ensure that a full review of the alterations that come can be made. And I don't believe that this will extend or delay the approval process, as it will happen concurrently with fulfilling the other sign-off provisions that come in a final approval. And so we ask that you would support that condition, as well as the other ones that are in the Urban Design Commission recommendation. And conceivably, the first 2 that were in our letter to the Urban Design Commission, which are not fully expressed in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Our next registrant then is Bradley Cantrell, West Main Street. Neither support nor oppose, wishing to speak again, representing the Neighborhood Steering Committee and Bedford Court Condo Association. Bradley, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Zellers, and hello, Plan Commission members, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I was a member of the Neighborhood Steering Committee, and also I reside at Bedford Court, which is the condo building adjoining this site to the south. I believe that for the most part, this is a really good project, and the development team has been receptive to most of the steering committee's concerns. I do think that this will be a prototype building that will address the missing middle that the planning staff talks about a lot, the scale of buildings that we'd like to see on the inner city. And I think that because of that, we want to get this building right. And my concern relates to condition 3, which I would request that the Plan Commission strike the phrase similar to the perforated brickwork as shown in the revised plans. I think that this, in my opinion, is not architecturally appropriate or functionally appropriate. I think that snorkily, this is kind of a bird nesting area, and I think that that other options should be explored. And by putting this in the condition, I think it locks us into that option, and I hope that the commission strikes it so that there could be other options that could be explored for the header over the garage door and incorporating the ventilation for the garage. So I would hope that you would make that change. The second condition I would like to address is condition number 4. I forwarded Kevin a couple pictures of a handicap ramp treatment of a building across the street from Bedford Court, and it parallels the sidewalk, and as such the wall and railing are reduced in height. And I believe a similar design could be done on this project. Current plans show a 4-foot wall. This is a project across the street from Bedford Court. But on, I think image A901 shows the image of the ramp that they have, and the wall and the rail that adjoins the public sidewalk, and a 4-foot wall and a 3-foot open fence above it, I think, is not the type of structure we want to adjoining the pedestrian sidewalk. So I would suggest that the development team reconsider what they had proposed. And I think that the condition as proposed by staff would address that and allow that to occur. Lastly, I just want to comment on the plaza. I from the start,
Brad, that concludes your available time.
Okay.
Thank you. The next registrant is Dylan Douglas, in support and available to answer questions, representing JT Engineering for the Neutral Project. Ye Shao, West Main Street, also representing the Neutral Project. And those are the registrants. Either, let me just double check. Yes, those are the registrants that either wanted to speak or available to answer questions. Excuse me. Are there questions of any of the registrants? Alder Ugair.
This is a question for Fed from the development team. If he's still available.
Okay, let's start
Yes.
with Fed, please.
Hi, Fed. Did I hear you say that the intent here is to certify this project under Passive House guidelines?
Yes, yes, this is correct. We all project by our development firm pursuing sustainable various levels of sustainable certification. So for this project, we are pursuing Passive House, and then we also evaluating the compliance with Living Building Challenge certification, which is in some ways even more stricter and broader, but we haven't finalized that particular analysis yet.
Well, having built a number of buildings to Passive House standards, you have set a very high goal for this project, and I want to commend you for considering that.
Thank you. We appreciate this, and yeah, this is a big core aspect of the mission of our development company.
Thank you. That's
Any
all.
other question? Okay, thank you, Alder. Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. I was wondering if Brad Cantrell would perhaps finish his comment on the plaza area.
Thank you. Brad?
Thank you, Commissioner Solheim. I was just going to say that in the steering committee in reviewing the project with the developer, one of the things that we suggested was to excavate the site, reduce the grade of the site, and that's one of the things that they said that they were not going to do because of cost considerations. And I always appreciate, you know, the cost of projects, and we certainly want to keep costs down. But I think if they would look at the cost of constructing the raised plaza with the numerous steps, the retaining walls that they're proposing to construct, and the ramping that is also in the project, and balance that with excavating some of the site to reduce the elevation, that would probably be more cost effective than what they proposed. I have no, you know, I guess belief that the Plan Commission can condition approval on reducing the grade, but I would hope that the development team would go back and look at that, and maybe they already have, and maybe they concluded that that would just be too costly. But I think Wisconsin weather, being as is, with the amount of snow and ice that we get, trying to navigate the steps going up to the coffee shop or commercial use that is proposed might create a lot of broken hips and broken ankles, and lots of issues for maintenance and long-term reconstruction. So anyway, that was my concluding remark, and I appreciate Commissioner Solheim allowing me to address that.
Thank you. I have one more question for Fed as well. Fed, there is a question, and there's a condition in the staff report as well about HVAC penetrations, and I'm guessing you're trying to limit those anyway due to the Passive House certification. But I was wondering if you could just speak to, you know, whether you are okay with that condition, and then if there's any details you want to provide on the penetrations for HVAC.
Yes, thank you. So let me address this sequentially. So first on the grade, yes, we did studies with our general contractor, CD Smith, and Earthworks consultants in the beginning of the project, and we've considered various types of excavation, including limiting or larger excavation. We've concluded that essentially every additional even increment in terms of inch or foot really affects the project. So we found that this is a balance that allows us to to find the balance for the cost, given the fact that we need to keep all the parking underground, and therefore we have to dig all the way into the grade of the site already. At the same time, we've looked at, as we had questions about the height of the building, we, for example, look and are still looking at strategies that could allow us to further reduce the height of the building in general, so without changing the grade, and that relates more to the floor slab composition. I'm not sure if this would address Bradley's concerns about the grade on the pedestrian level, but it would affect the overall building height. In regards to HVAC penetrations, so we are only planning for small vents on the sides of the buildings that would probably be around 4-inch in diameter, or small squares. So one for intake, one for exhaust. We are using very efficient heat pumps. They are all installed inside of the units, so there are no grids, no elements beyond the small air intake and exhaust that would be visual on the facade, and those will be placed on the sides of the building. I hope that answers your question.
That does answer my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McCahill.
Thank you. I have a question for Fed about parking. It looks to me from the plan like you'll be stacking cars too deep in the underground parking. I want to make sure I'm interpreting that right, and how you plan to coordinate that, how that will work.
This is correct. We are planning several parking spots, and if Kevin, you could maybe pull up the presentation with a parking plan. We can show that here. Those will be assigned to individual units, so that's never going to be shared between two different units. So if a particular unit could have two tandem parking space. We are providing a total of 18 parking spots for a 30-unit building, and at the same time, we are providing several options for shared mobility. So in the upper right corner, there is a shared vehicle. So we plan for electric vehicle to be shared and available for the residents to compensate and make more to be able to live in the building without owning a car. And we're also providing several bike share stations in addition to just pure bike parking. So larger units, so 3 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms, will be the units that get assigned the tandem parking.
Excellent, thanks.
Are there any other questions for our registrants? Seeing no raised hands, I will close the public hearing. Are there questions of staff? Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. There was a comment about listing some of the conditions and treating them as a minor alteration. I guess I wanted staff's thoughts on how that could work. And then I have a question or two to follow that.
And as I understood the comment, it's at conditions 1 through 9 that they would add a provision that as my understanding was, if there was a different solution that was not that was different from the specific wording of that condition, that could be handled as an administrative review, minor alteration process, which would require a recommendation from the alder and then the planning division director or designee. So I'm looking at the comments, and I actually think it applies probably most through 2 through 8. 9 is the comment about the wall packs or the HVAC louvers. And 9 already includes a general comment that if it's different from what the Plan Commission approved, it would need to go through an alteration process. It doesn't specify major or minor. So I'm not sure if it's necessary for 9. And condition 1 is just a note having to do with that there's been revisions to the plans that haven't been reviewed by all agencies. So it was a clarification that there might be other ordinance requirements that might have to be met. So I think my understanding was we could come up with language. You could say 2 through 8 or 2 through 9 and just say that I can work on better language, but the intent being that a modification to this condition or an alternate design solution could be considered through the minor alteration process, subject to the standards in the zoning code.
Thank you. That is helpful. And then related to kind of the recommendations within this that came from UDC, when those plans are resubmitted, is that generally reviewed by the secretary of the UDC to kind of confirm compliance with the intent, or how is that finalized?
Yep. And in this case, Urban Design Commission was only an advisory body and it was actually a referral. So they are not an approving body. I think the staff conditions would be reviewed by both the planning staff and the Urban Design Commission staff for compliance with those 8 or 9 conditions that were highlighted. So, but in this case, it wouldn't be referred back to the commission itself. It would be a staff level review.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions of staff? Alder Ugare.
Yes, I'm looking and refreshing myself with the staff report on this project. I'm not seeing any specific comments. Maybe I've missed them with regard to managing stormwater. Is that because it's not considered significantly different than the current use of the property, or could you comment on that, please?
Sure. And the development, I'm looking for the reference here. So if you would bear with me a moment, I can cite the specific comment. But our engineering division would have a standard comment that would just say the development would need to require to the stormwater provisions. And so that would be, I guess, a heads up on ordinance requirement. Let me just, if you can bear with me.
And I found that. That's okay.
Yep. And so that would be typical of how this would be handled, because essentially the Plan Commission wouldn't be able to add a more restrictive stormwater requirement. The development would need to meet the ordinance requirements, and that would be something that would be administered through the engineering division.
Thank you.
Any further questions of staff? Seeing no raised hands, is there a motion? Oh, Alder Verveer, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair Zellers, and good evening, commissioners. I want to assure the commission that I am enthusiastically in support of each of these 3 applications on your agenda. I believe that this is a truly exciting project for the Bassett neighborhood, the downtown, and the community as a whole. As you heard in the testimony, we have every reason to believe that this really will be a model development for missing middle infill that I think each and every one of you, certainly city policymakers, I think generally for years, and staff have encouraged. So that's why we want to get this right. I want to mention at the outset that it's been an absolute pleasure working with the applicants. From the very first conversation I had with the applicants several months ago, they actually shared that it was the plan of the Neutral Project to make this a model or prototype for their own development company. And so I know they want to get it right. And they want this to be seen as a model that can be replicated not only in our community, but perhaps elsewhere around the country. So we are really close to having I think a final product that we are all very proud of. Certainly the sustainability features are excellent, to say the least. So the issue, as you heard from the testimony of the Neighborhood Association Steering Committee members that joined us tonight, is a little concern about design progression. And the reality is, as you've heard, that this proposal was not required to come before the Urban Design Commission. At the last meeting of the Urban Design Commission on May 8th, the Urban Design Commissioners proved to me their tremendous value yet again, as they have throughout my entire tenure in City Hall. And they took on this referral by myself with great gusto and really dived into the design of this. And I'm internally grateful for them for that. But the reality is, as you just heard from Kevin Furco, this matter does not returning to the Urban Design Commission in any way, shape, or form. It simply was an advisory referral again by myself. And their feedback again, I thought was very valuable, just as valuable as the Neighborhood Steering Committee's input has been. So with that said, the idea of adding language, conditioning the Planning Division staff proposed conditions to going through the minor alteration process is simply addressing the reality that we don't believe under the code that this likely would be referred back to the Urban Design Commission for final approval, and will be left in the hands of a very capable and competent planning staff as part of the staff sign-off process. And so we thought it was a very perhaps helpful compromise that rather than asking that this be sent back to the Urban Design Commission for final consideration, which may or may not even be lawful under the zoning code, to instead allow for a formalized form of feedback for neighborhood stakeholders via the minor alteration process, a process that my three council colleagues and my former council colleagues that are members of this commission are very accustomed to. And that would allow, again, for a more formalized process whereby the Neighborhood Steering Committee would continue working with the applicants on the design progression and allow them to, the Neighborhood Steering Committee, to formally recommend to myself, and then I in turn formally recommend to the Planning Division staff our feedback, our comments on those, again, proposed conditions of approval by the planning staff. Conditions 2 through 9 or 2 through 8, whatever the commission feels is most appropriate. So I know that this is somewhat unorthodox. I want to give credit to your former Vice Chair, Brad Cantrell, for suggesting this concept. And I think it's actually a really reasonable request. And again, given the great cooperation and collaboration we've had with the applicants and their immediate readiness to voluntarily go before the Urban Design Commission, I believe adding this little minor step to the minor alteration of a minor alteration to the staff sign-off process is really not a big deal, I would think, to the applicants, and just allows, as I say, a more formalized approach as it relates to the few outstanding design issues that you've heard about. And I would say, from my perspective, the most significant to me, and on behalf of all of the many pedestrians that use this priority corridor or West Main Street, the incorporation of the accessibility ramp is absolutely critical. Having a brick wall adjacent to the sidewalk of some height is something that none of us want to see, including, I know, the applicants. So lastly, let me also just remind the commissioners, if you could, I would respectfully ask and add my voice again to Vice Chair Cantrell's testimony. And as it relates to proposed staff, Planning Division staff, condition number 3, if you would please kindly delete the reference to the perforated brick. None of us that have been following this progression of the design believe that that's a successful attempt. Or I should say final. It's perhaps a successful attempt with very short time, for the design team to address concerns, but no one that I've spoken with is excited about that as a final solution. So if you could just delete that clause between the commas and proposed planning division staff number 3 related to perforated brick, that would be most appreciated as well as conditioning those conditions 2 through 8 or 2 through 9 as being subject to the minor alteration process in the city zoning code. So thank you all very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Alder Verveer. So now we would need a motion. Commissioner Solheim.
I will take these separately. So I will first move that the Plan Commission find that the standards for demolition permits are met and approve demolition permits for the buildings at 519 and 521 West Main Street.
Seconded by Alder Field. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Commissioner Solheim?
I'll speak at the next one.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, input on this motion? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Then next would be a motion for the 2 conditional use items. Commissioner Solheim.
I will move that the Plan Commission find that the standards of approval are met and approve the conditional uses for the proposed buildings at 519 and 21 West Main Street, subject to the conditions in the staff report, with an additional clarification that any modifications to conditions 2 through 8 could be considered as a minor alteration, and that in condition number 3, the perforated brickwork language be removed.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Field. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Commissioner Solheim?
I just wanted to thank everyone that has been involved in this process so far, the development team, the neighborhood engagement, the Alder. It seems like your combined efforts have really pulled together a really nice proposal. I just also wanted to give props to the development team on the Passive House, as Alder Ugair mentioned. That is no small feat. I've looked at it in some projects, and I really admire your commitment to moving forward with that.
Thank you, Commissioner Solheim. Any other comments, input? Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. I just wanted to add for the development team that I greatly appreciate that this building looks different than other buildings. And honestly, I'm not even sure if I like it, but I like the fact that it's not as a duplicate of so many things that we see all over the city. So along with all the other wonderful things we heard about the development, I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Heck. Anything else before we come to a vote? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, motion passes unanimously. And now the certified survey map. Commissioner Solheim.
I'll move that the Plan Commission find that the standards for land division are met and forward the CSM to council with a recommendation to approve.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Field. Commissioner Solheim, did you wish to speak to your motion? No. Okay. Any comments, input? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Good effort on the part of the developer and the neighborhood association and the Alder. So thanks all three for getting us this good proposal. Okay, now is there any business by members? Seeing none, then we'll move to the secretary's report. Kevin.
Thank you, Chair. Just note a couple items that are highlighted on your agenda. First, recent Common Council actions. The appeal of the demolition permit denial was originally scheduled to be heard by the Common Council on May 7th and is actually referred and will be considered tomorrow evening. So that appeal is before the Common Council on May 21st. Then looking ahead to the next two regularly scheduled Plan Commission meetings. There are quite a few items on the June 10th item. They're all listed there. I'll just highlight a few of them here. There is the return of the plat on Milwaukee Street. That's 3420 through 3614. For the Starkweather plat, that was an application that was submitted earlier and has been in referral for several months. Also before you, scheduled on the 10th, is going to be redevelopment with two buildings on the Essen House block. We also have the CDA redevelopment on 755 Braxton Place. We have the return of, or we have, I'm sorry, not the return, but a new proposal for a third tiny house village on South Stoughton Road. And then we have a new residential development on North Whitney Way. And finally, we have a residential building on Old Sauk Road, 6610 through 6706 Old Sauk Road is also scheduled to be before you on June 10th, along with a few other items as noted on the agenda. As it stands right now, a bit of a lighter agenda scheduled on June 24th. A couple items, we have some, I'll say some housekeeping that we have before you. We have potential updates to the policy and procedures manual. And we potentially have an update to the Urban Design Commission code pending on how that goes the next several weeks. This is, I believe it's been talked about other items. There's a multi-phase effort to update the various aspects of the Urban Design Commission's code. This was the first phase of those edits. That may be before you on June 24th. That's the current referral date. Other than that, other items are noted on your agenda. And that's all I have for this evening's Secretary's report.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Then we will be looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Alderfield. Seconded by Commissioner Solheim. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, we are adjourned, and I will see you then on June 10th. Thank you, everybody.